Normally, I try and refrain from talking about individual personalities, except for politics. I'll talk about politicians in a heartbeat, but individuals, I really don't. Doesn't really matter. But this kind of hits on culture. So there was an interview between Dr. Van Zant, she's the interviewee, and a young, well, not young, but a lady by the name of Ebony K. Williams, hosting the show The Griot, interviewed Dr. Van Zant, and some interesting cultural aspects came up that I'm just going to take a few minutes to go over, and I hope you find it interesting. Let's talk about it. Hello, everyone. This is Keith. Welcome to the Ghetto Sapien channel, your home of inner city intelligence. So, Eboni K. Williams is an internet personality, TV personality. She's been on Fox. She's been on CNN. You might find her familiar. She's been around a little bit. Dr. Van Zant also has been interviewed quite a few times and also has some pretty interesting interviews herself. And I'll just get right down to it. I got the recording, and we'll talk about it as soon as it finishes playing. Eboni Williams is the younger woman in this video. She's on the left, and Dr. Van Zant's on the right. That's all you need to know right now.
I do want you to speak, Ayanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have
be in our divinity. That's, I don't know what she means by that. That's a flag right there. Being our divinity. Not sure how to take that.
Our crowns, right? How we can create and not build. When some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not.
None of that's attractive right there for any guy, because she just listed off, she's expecting to have a crown she could do for herself. There's really no need for a man to be there, and she makes it sound like she's been around a little bit, got some mileage on her, but, to each their own.
Positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver?
And Dr. Van Zant cuts right down to the bone. She uses the Socratic method there, asking a very good question, which should elicit an interesting response. That's how you use the Socratic method. So, and she does get a really interesting response.
Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Now let's address the response to the interview and what some of y'all are calling a backlash. So let me be clear. First, I am a professional disruptor. So backlash is my business. And I will always take it on the chin for the sake of advancing the work, conversation, or movement. So know that I am completely unfazed by the onslaught of nasty comments, wishing me a sad, lonely, bitter existence until my untimely death.
Okay. I want you to take note that she says she can take it pretty much. She's unfazed by this. And my problem there is we're all human. We respond even when strangers say terrible things to us, even if they're not true. No one likes hearing that stuff. So to pretend you're unfazed kind of makes it hard to believe some other things you might be saying, when she's obviously fazed by it. You just tell by the look on her face. I mean, we're not stupid. She's fazed, and it's okay to admit, hey, that sucks. It hurts. I don't like it. But my advice is, be honest with the audience, because, we're all vulnerable, and this way they'll trust things you say. Continuing.
Now, that is some weird energy to be wishing onto a black woman, especially one who has dedicated her life to the liberation of black folk. But, whatever, I guess, go off. See, I wanted to talk about how do we close the gap between black women who do show up in a so-called masculine posture, those of us that are providing and building and protecting due to circumstances that we might feel make us feel that if we don't do it for ourselves, we will have to go without the resources and protections we need to feel safe in this world.
Is it possible that you going out and obtaining these things that men normally do when the guy does meet you and he finds out, well, you're well paid, which is great. You have your own place. You can take care of yourself. Doesn't really leave room for a guy to actually jump in there and feel like he's going to be effective. He's going to more feel like he's redundant since you're pretty much independent. So it might be a self-fulfilling prophecy that there are no guys there to, to white knight you, so to speak, save the damsel in distress. If the damsel's taking care of herself, then guys are like, all right, I'll be here for a little, and then I'll move on, but you don't really need me. So just a suggestion. I've been married for some time, so I have a little experience.
But Dr. Ayanla went in a different direction. She asked me a personal question. And y'all know I have been extremely transparent about the fact that my life choices and my chosen lifestyle are far outside of the norm. So when I said that I would date the bus owner, a lot of y'all heard something different. Some of you heard the following: bus drivers are whack. Bus drivers are broke. Oh, and I'm too good for a bus driver. The only thing is, y'all made that part up. See, I said what I said. But then some of y'all started talking about salaries and hourly wages, pensions and benefits. And that's wild because I was never talking about money at all. About they're not earning the incomes, they're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership. I was talking about Black ownership, but some of you.
No, as you can see, she was talking about salary and income. I don't know if she remembered that's what she went over. I'm not going to accuse her of lying, but obviously she was equating worth with how much you earn and, social status with whether you own the bus or you're driving it. So we can't get away from that. These are her own words that they're out there and they're just being played back to her.
Y'all made it about money. I'm talking about ownership, Black enterprise, and entrepreneurship, because really I am talking about Black liberation. And if you read my book, you'll understand why. So I'm standing 10 toes down on that position, and I don't really care if you're hurt or offended by it. And since some of y'all are already big mad, let me go ahead and make you incensed.
Okay, why would you do that? Why would you want to incense some of your audience? Your goal is, I think, to try and communicate, spread your ideas, maybe even try and convince people, at the very least, communicate your ideas so there's understanding. But to provoke people on purpose shows me that, yeah, this kind of got to you and you just feel you need to lash out, but go ahead and lash out.
So out of the 50,000 plus comments posted on social, I only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of Black men when I said what I said. But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and Black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best.
Well, she's talking about men who, I guess, get C's and D's, so that's personal, and then to bring the parents in it and say they, coddled you or accepted your academic underperformance. I mean, that's, again, completely unnecessary, but you can see why, maybe she got nailed and as she did online. This is going to upset people.
Well, listen, I love and believe in the excellence of Black men. So no, my dear, C's and D's or any other form of mediocrity is not okay. No, I will not create a soft place for you or anybody that I love to fall comfortably into the bigotry of low expectations. So I'm going to say one more time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother Gloria drove one for years. But could it be that Black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. But see, because I know the truth about Black folk in America, no, average is not and will never be good enough for me. And the gag is, I don't think it's good enough for you either.
All right, so that's it. So look, my deal is, let's get to the obvious one. First, to me, she's talking about white supremacy, and that has something to do with, being satisfied with C's and D's and mediocrity. Well, here's her ex-fiance. So it's kind of hard to convince anyone that that white supremacy is an issue for you. It just doesn't seem that way. Unfortunately, my experience has been a lot of these really pro-blackity black people. It's like they're trying to make up for something. You're black. You're born that way. You're in some black culture or subculture of the black overall culture. You don't have to announce it all the time and prove it to anyone. You just be you, and that's it. You're going to be black whether you like white people. And again, nothing wrong with that. You're going to be black whether you like classic music or you listen to, or you like rock and roll. You're still a black person. You don't have to prove it with actions or words, anything like that. You just are who you are. And I just sometimes think there's some insecurity with people when they, when either they have a mixed parentage or they're dating someone who's white, they got to make up for it by showing how black they are and how down they are with the cause. And it just, again, rings hollow. It's like when people say, I'm a good Christian, and they do horrible things. It's like, just be you. Don't announce who you are, because then we're going to judge you by the very standards you throw out there. So we'll just put that aside. But that just kind of looks weird that she's talking all this racial paranoia that white people out to get them, or white people can hold you back and make you get a D or a C, and your parents will be okay with it. I don't see what white people have to do with that. And that's just why I show that photo of Eboni and her former fiance. Now, she talks about mediocrity and average, average guys and all that stuff. And yeah, bus driver, I guess, kind of is an average income and an average job. Nothing wrong with that at all. And she agreed there's nothing wrong with that as well. But she's average in a way that's important to guys, and in the area that's important to guys. Okay, so income, she's above average, obviously. Looks, she's also above average. She's an attractive lady. Where she's average is where it counts. She's talking about guys being average with their, B's and C's. I did just a little quick background, and Eboni herself is average. She's unmarried. She's never been married. And so for black women, she fits right in the never married 48%. So she's average where it counts for men. Men want somebody who's, young, because she's 40, ready to have children, when guys are serious, ready to settle down. And again, a lot of black women, unfortunately, are not married, but that's the average of black women. And again, Eboni represents that average. Now, as for the average for men, or the mediocrity she's talking about, the guys getting B's, C's and D's and happy with them. Okay, that's fine. You could judge guys that way, I guess. But just remember one thing. These average guys, if they went on strike, if they stopped working, if they stopped doing these average jobs, you probably wouldn't have electricity, you wouldn't have running water, you didn't have your toilets wouldn't flush, you wouldn't have a roof over your head. Because it's the average guy, the quote-unquote average guy, the guy who isn't looking for the spotlight. He's the one that when your power goes out in a snowstorm, he goes out into the cold and restores power and restores civilization that we all enjoy so much. So let's not besmirch the average guy. He's doing an above average job to keep civilization going that I enjoy and that people like Eboni K. Williams enjoy. So that's my take on this. What's yours? like, share, comment, and subscribe.